many hands go up as people that recognized the name, the Arizona we want. For those that you don't, it's really a very simple concept that Laddie Coor came up with a number of years ago, and that was, we need to find out what citizens want for the future, and the only way to do that is to go ask them. So in 2009, we partnered with the Gallup organization to do what we call the Gallup Arizona Poll, and out of that came 8 citizen goals that are very well documented, and you'll see a little bit of them in a minute. But it wasn't supposed to be just a snapshot in time. It was part of a very long-term effort to really, I guess the overall goal of it was to see if there was a way we could find to connect citizens and leaders around a common agenda that could be pursued. Most of the goals that Arizonans want, they aren't going to get accomplished this year. They're not going to get accomplished next year. They require a lot of long-term planning, just like what built the preserves in Greater Phoenix. So my thanks for inviting me, and I would like to say that I've known about the Conservation Alliance since 2010. This particular brilliant visionary idea came out of the Desert Botanical Gardens, and it was submitted to the Center for the Future of Arizona in a project we called the 5 Communities Project. It was also one of the 5 winners. So believe me, we are very appreciative of all the hard work that everybody associated with this effort has made over the last few years, and especially to Kim. She wrote the proposal. I think it exemplifies what the center is all about, and that is we've got to we've got to eliminate the disconnect. We've got to build the kind of public-private partnerships that can actually be successful in accomplishing the goals that all Arizonans want. So with that, I'm going to ask you another question. How many of you actually were raised here, born here, raised here? Okay, that's about like the average of Arizona, okay? In 2012, you'll find that 2/3 of all Arizonans were born somewhere else. If we look at it, we have the 3rd lowest of state-born residents in the whole nation. Only Nevada and Florida have lower rates. What's really unique about Arizona is that we've had the same migration pattern for 112 years. In 1900, 31% of us were born here in Arizona. In 1950, it was 38%. In 2012, it's 38%. I have some very good Native American friends, and they say the only reason it was 31% in 1900, they weren't counting Native Americans. Okay? So where did we all come from? We came from all over the United States. The New York Times recently did a huge study with the help of the University of Minnesota to track for every single state in the Union where their non-resident population came from. And you can see how incredibly diverse it is. If you can't read all the numbers, I promise I will post this on our website and you can take a look at it for yourself. Our partnership with Gallup has continued now since 2000 and 2009. We are a partner with them on what they call Gallup Analytics, and so we are tracking in real time, all time, 365 days of the year. In 2013, Arizonans described their political views exactly the same as the national average. Not saying that we vote, I'm just saying that when people describe their political views, they're exactly the same as the nation. I think that's fascinating. This is just data that we received in early 2015, but it really helped us to begin understanding some of the things that came out of the original Gallup poll in 2009. This is merely a timeline to give you an idea of, yes, overall this time, this has been a consistent effort. Laddie is not in this for the short term, okay? Here's one of the most interesting things we found in the Gallup Arizona poll. Out of 14 indicators, what Arizonans love best about this state, what they see as its greatest asset, is its natural beauty and its open spaces. It is many, many percentage points above every other characteristic of the state. Water management was the highest priority among all the infrastructure issues. And those of you who follow data a lot, you can tell I'm a bit of a wonk. Okay? Morrison Institute just put out a survey in about 2 weeks ago. They just did a survey and asked Arizonans for their 2 highest priorities. It's still education and water. That's not too surprising, despite all of the fabulous leadership that Arizona has had in water over many, many decades. Here's another thing we found out in the Gallup poll. Arizonans have huge, high consensus on all these issues. We thought when we went into it that we would find big differences between, say, Tucson and Phoenix metro areas, or big differences between rural Arizona and small cities and urban areas. We didn't. Out of all the demographics that Gallup tracked for us, the only one that was really a little bit of a differentiator was age, which shouldn't surprise anyone. Young people don't think the same as older people. If they did, we'd like give up, right? Because they're not supposed to. The next one was, even though we are fantastically attached to Arizona as a place to live, we think it's beautiful, we think the aesthetics are fantastic, we don't feel very connected to one another. Only 12% of people in the original Gallup Arizona poll expressed the belief that people in their community cared about one another. Now remember, you've got huge 2/3 of people coming in all the time. So the more we understood the in-migration rate, you begin to understand why it takes a lot of time to begin building that sense of connection to place, not just the aesthetics of the place, but to the people who live here and that you share it with. These are the 8 goals. I'm not going to take up a lot of time because you can go online and see them. We've been talking about them for, 5-6 years now. 3 of them are basically citizen-driven. 5 of them are policy issues. And that's why public-private partnerships are so important in finding ways to bring citizens and leaders together in meaningful ways. Okay, civic health, I'm not going to spend time on. We are at the bottom of the heap. We are like below the national average on all but 2 national indicators. Well, I'll get to voting in a minute. We consistently find, though, when you're really tracking civic health indicators, that the single primary most important predictor of how people participate in civic life is their education. I'm going to talk just for a minute. 2.0 was the next report we put out, which took the goals and began moving them into implementation. Vision 2025 is what we're working on right now. That is a 10-year plan that's looking at the future of Arizona from what citizens want, and also it's the strategic plan of the center itself on what it is going to be doing over the next 10 years in support of those goals. That report will be released in June, in the first week of June. Demographics, I need to back up for a minute. In this report, the most important thing we needed to do, just like what you had to do on the Conservation Alliance, is understand the Arizona we have. And then, how do you protect it? How do you expand it? How do you nurture it going forward? Fact, the demographics of Arizona, this is why this is such an exciting place to be right now. The demographics of Arizona are the future demographics of the nation. We're just a little bit ahead of the curve. We're growing younger, older, and more diverse, but if you look at those numbers there, if you can read them, we're not very far off. We're just a little bit ahead. Millennials, that 18 to 34-year-old population, 35% of our traditional working age already. You'll see the mid-career. Now this is just about fertility rates. You know, it's just we have a trough between the huge number of baby boomers and the fantastically large number of millennials coming on. So these 2 groups are incredibly important in moving the state forward and connecting them. Projection. We will become, this is not rocket science, we will become a majority-minority state before 2025. If you look at this chart and see the skewing of this bar toward Latino youth at the younger ages and what you think of as the non-Latino white population at the older ages, you can see how quickly this is going to happen. Minority children in school today, in K-12, all minorities are already the majority. It will happen at the state. 4 or 5 states have already become majority-minority states. That's why I think the center is absolutely so passionate about dealing with K-12 education and making sure that all Arizona students have an absolutely incredible opportunity for not only a great job, but a great life. Uncertainties. When are Arizona's going to start playing a more active role? All of you are raising your hands, and I know you're all an engaged group of people here, or you wouldn't be sitting here in the room right now. That's not true statewide. And if you look at the voter rate in 2012, millennials, 38% voted. I don't have the data for 2014. Voting across the nation, however, has been falling off. It's not just in Arizona, we're just at the bottom of the heap. Get out the vote campaigns. We spent a boatload of money in the 2014 election trying to pilot different ways of getting independents, for example, to the polls. We only were trying a few different, districts. You can't do it all, it's too expensive. Nothing worked. We have to find a different, it's not about putting out, did you register today, did you vote today? It's much more about finding ways to connect with people that are actually closely aligned with their own values and their lifestyle. That's why I'm so excited about the, okay, I'm going to jump ahead. I want to talk about this for a minute. One of the things we're doing in this strategic planning effort is trying to showcase examples where Arizona has had great leadership that has come together to do giant, huge things. And the very first example would be the congressional delegations that certainly made sure that we got dams built and canals built and a groundwater management plan in place and a lot of great things. We've had fantastic leadership in water over decades. Education. All three universities, plus compulsory public education, were passed by the territorial legislature before statehood. I'm not going to spend more time on that. Yours is right there, open spaces. That is an incredible example of leadership over not just this last few years, but over a long period of time that set aside this public land to make it available to people for research, for education, for recreation, for legacy. 5 Communities Project, I've already told you, you'll want it. And as you build it and make it more and more successful, it will be a national and a global model, I promise you. Please go online and get involved.